All right, fourth grade friends, we're going to go over our homework from yesterday. Okay, so if you don't have it done, I'm trusting you to be responsible and have integrity and save that for another time to work on it. Okay, just listen in ears now. Go ahead and get those questions ready, and then we're going to read, and then hopefully we'll have some homework work time. We don't have a classwork page today, but we're probably going to have a little bit of a discussion after, okay? So, let's see here. Give me a second. Actually, it was probably better that way. No, it wasn't. All right. So you had chapter 17, 18, and 19. 3 questions, 2 pages, or 3 chapters, 2 pages. Let's look at number 1. Why was it going to be strange for the boys not to hear the sound of the bells? Remember they said, it's going to be strange. Why is it going to be so strange? What do you think, Christian?
Because they've always heard the sound of the bells because they're always in the village.
Good. It will be strange because they've always lived in the village and always heard the bells. Something they're really used to it. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
Any questions on number 1? All right, let's go to number 2. What were the boys fighting over? I know that wording's a little silly, but think through. What were the boys fighting over? What were they fighting over, Ryan?
They were fighting over a pair of shoes.
The boys were fighting over. They were fighting over a pair of shoes. Is it something with shoes? As long as you have some sort of shoes. Remember Antonio and Salvatore were fighting over the shoes? Do you remember Antonio's compromise? I get one and you get one.
I mean, it's kind of smart.
Yeah, only if you got a peg leg, though. All right, let's go to number 3. Why did the boys not want to arrive in the city at night? Remember, Francesca was like, we're going to sleep in this tree instead because it's better to go in the morning. Why, Aiden?
Boys didn't want to arrive in the city at night because there are 3 E's and 4 colors.
Ooh, you even used words from the book. Snaps for Aiden. The boys did not want to arrive because there are thieves, and I believe the words were cutthroats in the book, but I would take that. That was really, really close. Something, or you might have said they don't want to arrive because it is... Is it just because it's dark? Dangerous. It's not safe. Something along those lines I would take also. Questions on number 3? All right. A misconception is a misunderstanding. So something that you misunderstand. Name 2 misconceptions the boys had of America. They had 2 misunderstandings at least of America. What was one, Nathan? They were like, the streets are paved of gold. Are American streets really made of gold? No. What was another misconception that they might have had? Lily?
I don't know if this was really one, but they were like, what are cars?
They kind of knew what they were. Remember, they were like, we've seen them, but are they really common?
Well, they're like really expensive.
They're really expensive, so only who had them?
Yeah, but
Only rich people. I could see, because remember, they were kind of like, we don't have them that much. Okay. Camille? Pollution. Remember, they were like, pollution? Like street lights? What? They didn't know what pollution was? Micah?
they thought the streets were paved with gold and that cowboys ate the green leaves.
Remember, they were like, oh, I can't wait to be a cowboy and eat linguine under the stars. Do you know what linguine is? It's not squid. What was squid? Calamari. Linguine, Ryan?
Lobster.
It's not lobster. You might have lobster with linguine. Do you know? You probably have linguine in your pantry at home. Do you know, Alasia? It's a style of pasta. It's almost like you know how fettuccine noodles are like rectangles? It's like fettuccine meets a spaghetti noodle. So it's like a rectangle that's thinner. Linguine. It's a little small. Like thinner. But it's long like fettuccine and spaghetti noodles. Any other misconceptions you were thinking of? Those were kind of the 2 about the cowboys and the streets were the ones I was thinking of.
I never I
Brooke?
got the cowboy one.
That's their book. I got the street one. Didn't Salvatore say one time that there was like buffalo?
Yeah, buffalo. Remember, Salvatore was like, I can't wait to live in New Jersey and see buffaloes.
Well, you can say that when you live in
But that's with a misconception, right? He doesn't understand. He has a misunderstanding of where buffaloes are. Good. Any other ones? All right, let's go on to number 5 then. What made the night of the trip to the harbor a night Dominic knew he would always remember? Why is he going to remember this night specifically? Zach? Can't remember. Salvatore was just like so envious of Dominic. He was like, oh man, you have that really cool nickel. You know so much about America and cowboys. You are my hero, right? And he's like, whoa, I'm somebody's hero? This has never happened before. He's never really had that love before. Alicia? Okay. Claire, you got something?
He like had a lot of fun with them and like bonded with them.
Yeah.
Got like really close to Salvatore.
Yeah, they had a lot of fun and they were bonding, and specifically he's bonding with Salvatore. So they're becoming closely really good friends. Good. And then they're going to split up soon. Oh, man. Oh. Maybe something will happen. Maybe a miracle. All right, let's keep going. Number 6. What proof did who do you think they mean he? Dominic has that he's from the future. He's like, no way, they won't believe this. Do you remember, Levi? He had his nickel and he said 1936. Did it work?
Yeah.
No. You remember, Kateri?
Because the boys said that they can't read English.
Yeah, they're like, we can't read English. Maybe that's the coin number. Because sometimes they have like serial numbers on coins, so you know if they're real. So maybe they were like, that could just be the number of coin it is. I don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah. So, and Dominic was like, guess I'm stuck with it. All right. And we just answered that. What was the boy's response to his proof? Do you remember what was the cowboy song that he knew, that Dominic knew? Lizzie?
Cowboy song Dominic knew was Home on the Range.
The cowboy song Dominic knew was Home on the Range. Perfect. To what sound did Dominic wake up? Remember, chapter 19 started with Dominic waking up. Bennett? Dominic woke up to Salvatore's groaning. Oh, man, is that how you'd want to wake up in the morning?
No.
Yeah. What do you think is wrong with Salvatore? What do you think, Maddie? Maybe the cherry pits, right? Because we talked about, can you eat cherry pits?
Well, you can, but it's not good.
How many do you think Salvatore ate?
Like the
Like, probably, I would imagine, not 1,000, but at least I would say almost the hundreds. Like, remember, they ate until their tummies were full of cherries. So can your stomach handle that many cherry pits?
I don't think they can have that many cherries.
All right, someone thinks something different, that it's not from the cherry pits. Nathan?
I think because he's pale, he got bit by a snake.
Maybe bit by a snake. Has anything other than the paleness led to you to believe that, though? So I like that you're using that clue, but think through it. Is there anything else, too? Rosie?
I have 2 things. I think Salvatore has the flu or the Spanish.
The flu or the Spanish flu?
We're no flu shot.
They didn't have flu shots, so maybe he just got the flu and got really sick with a stomach ache. All right. Ryan?
Because he's like looking a little bit pale and stuff, and like they've been walking all day and stuff, I think he didn't he's very hungry and hasn't eaten anything for a while.
Maybe he's just overly hungry. Sometimes we get that way, right? When we walk and do a lot and we don't eat, sometimes our stomach hurts because we're so hungry. All right, you're using good details from it. What do you think, Bennett?
This is what I wrote. I wrote that cherry pit, but also maybe anxiety for the trip.
Maybe just he's anxious for the trip. Would that cause us to be really pale, though, do you think? That could cause the stomach ache, but it doesn't explain all of our symptoms. I like how you're thinking, though. Think it's true. Alicia?
I think
What was the last part? He's sick with something. Good. All right, so we'll have to keep reading and figure out what's going to happen to Salvatore. All right, so wanted you for number 11 to describe the city of Naples, and you might have written on the backside or in this blank spot, okay? So how would you describe the city of Napoli or Naples? In the book, they called it Napoli. Claire, what did you write?
I said fountains gurgled, a baby cried, and a young girl on the balcony was singing, and the city was busy.
Oh my goodness, did you write it right from what the book said? Because that is phenomenal. Way to look back at that book and find the answer in there and give me your best description. Anything you want to add to the fountain, to the baby, the girl singing? Anything else, Thomas? It's really crowded. Lily? There's a lot of people selling stuff, right?
Lots of like lights and stuff.
There's a lot of lights. You're getting more into the scenery now, Bennett? Whoa, a lot of great adjectives in there. Nathan? It had conmen. Amelia?
The people wanted Aaron to get to America safely.
They want to get him to America safely. And Zach? You sounds like you went through and found the exact part that described it too and added those details. Good job. Yes, you should have mentioned about all the sights and sounds, and then also about like the roofs and how beautiful it was, right? How pretty it is. Do you remember what Francesco said about the city? He said a quote, and Dominic said, "What does that mean?" Do you remember kind of what his quote was? Remember, Lily? Once you see Naples, you can die, meaning it has all the beauty in the world, right? You haven't lived until you've seen Naples. Zach? I think he said it has all of the beauty in that little village. I think that's what he said. I don't think he said you can die once you see it. I think he just said it had a lot of beauty, which is true. Italy is really beautiful. Okay. All right, let's go on to the backside, number 12. What city does Naples remind Dominic of? This one I'm looking for a specific city. Do you know, Thomas? Brooklyn. Naples reminds him of Brooklyn. Why don't we want to just say New York?
Because not specific, because New York is crowded.
New York is a state. And did Dominic say New York City? He said Brooklyn, so getting into that neighborhood in there. Good, getting specific. Good. All right, number 13. According to Dominic, why do you never tell someone on the street what you've got on you? Why would you not want to tell anybody that? Rosie?
Don't tell someone on the street what you got on you
because they
could steal it.
They could steal it, right? If you're like, yeah, I got my pocket watch, they'd be like, oh, now I got a pocket watch. Thanks for telling me. Yeah, they're going to steal it. You thinking something else, Zach?
Well, this isn't going to Dominic because you didn't say much but you don't want to say because you say I have $100 was I read. People will know that you told get the $100 instead of going in and trying to find the way.
Yep, so they're going to go after what they know you have instead of going like, maybe Thomas has $50, but Maddie already told me she has $50, so which one am I going to go after now? I'm going to go to Madison because I know she has it. I don't know what Thomas has, okay? So don't tell people what you got. Good. All right, and it was actually number 14, but it says number 12. Remember the mix-up? What item is stolen from the boys in the city? Aiden, what item was stolen? Their shoes were stolen. Good. Their shoes. All right. Then we had our last part, the vocabulary match. What did you think squabbles meant? It's a noun, and it's from page 87. What do you think, Isaac? C, a noisy argument or quarrel, usually over something unimportant, is correct. A squabble. You might squabble. Mrs. Ball says, knock it off. All right. What about number 2? Furtively. It's an adverb. Furtively. What do you think, Claire?
F.
F. Sly or sneaky? Yes. F. All right. What about envy? Which vocab one matched envy over there? What do you think, Micah? B. E. To admire or respect someone with a little fear. Not quite. Not E. Not E. Kateri?
To wish that you could have something that someone else has.
Yep. That someone. Good. If you have envy, you wish you had it. You wish you had it. What about odd? Odd. It's a verb. Like they odd at the sunset. What do you think, Bennett?
To admire or respect someone with a little fear.
That one is E. Good. When you admire or respect, sometimes you might have a little like fear, like woo, just like oh my goodness, I can't believe it. Good. All right. What about lulled? Lulled. This one's a verb. It's an action one too. What are you thinking, Amelia? Yep. To be make someone feel peaceful, safe, or sleepy. Like you might say, the guest speaker lulled me to sleep. Right? Like made me fall asleep. All right. We got 3 more. Quell. Quell. What do you think, Brooke?
I think it's G. Stop, crush, like force.
Quell. Yep. To stop by crush or force. Do you remember who quelled?
Stop quells when the stomach hurts.
Yeah, he quelled his lip. Remember, he bit down on his lip to quell the pain. Good. All right. And what about ornate? Ornate. We got 2 choices left. What do you think, Thomas?
A small attractive object that's used as a
Decoration. Good. Remember, they had ornate things on the domes, little decorations on the domes. So then relics should be some object that belonged to a saint or holy person. Do you remember what relic the con men were trying to sell? Hair from St. Gregory. Is there any way to know if it really was from St. Gregory? Not with hair. But, like, Lizzie, didn't you have kind of a relic?
Yeah, it was a real relic. It wasn't a fake.
No, Lizzie had, remember when she did her saint speech, she had the St. Elizabeth Ann Seton relic, the little relic from her. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So there are real relics, but these people didn't have real relics. Claire?
Like, so they're like lulled. It makes one feel peaceful, safe, or sleepy. I always think of lulled like a lullaby.
That's where it comes from. Lullaby comes from that kind of word, right? Because you play lullabies to get babies to do what? Sleep. Yeah, way to use those kind of key words in there. Good. All right. That was all we had for homework last night, right? So today we're going to read chapter 20. We'll ask some questions. We'll have a good discussion. And then I'd love to give you a little bit of homework work time. We're just going to read 1 chapter today. It is a teeny bit longer than our other ones have been. Okay? So it'll take about the same amount of time-ish. Kateri?
It's about chapter 20 homework.
We'll go over that when we get to that homework work time, okay? All right. So let's read our next chapter, our only one for today. Chapter 20. Remember, the boys just got to Napoli, and their shoes were stolen. All right. So chapter 20, books open, eyes following along. Dominic and Francesco chased after the thief, with Salvatore, Antonio, and Violetta lagging behind. They ran past a crippled woman who sat cackling on a stoop, past the sound of mandolin music that beckoned from a darkened doorway, past a band of dirty-faced boys dressed in rags who laughed as they knelt over a card game in a grimy alleyway. But it was no use. The thief had vanished. He was probably after the tickets, Dominic gasped as they caught their breath in a doorway, finally giving up the chase. Francesco pulled the tickets out from the sack and smiled, but looking down at his dirty, stained feet, his smile quickly faded. Now we will have no shoes to wear in America, he cried, pounding his fist against a building. Salvatore and Antonio looked down at their bare feet and frowned. What about our shirts and Mama's rosary beads? Salvatore asked. They are safe, Francesco declared. And they'll have to fight us to the ground before they'll get those. Salvatore began to complain again about his stomach as he reached for Antonio's hand. Maybe we should see a doctor, Dominic suggested. A doctor? Salvatore looked alarmed. We've never been to a doctor, Francesco explained. No, what Salvatore needs is to lie still. Once we get to Signora Giasulo's house, he'll be able to rest. All we have to do is find the clam cellar. He turned toward Violetta. Stay close to me, Francesco whispered, placing a short rope around her neck. She was quick to answer with an uneasy bleat. Together, the little group cautiously walked down a narrow, crowded street, under a great canopy of dripping laundry, and past a shuttered window from which the woeful lament of Concertina drifted. They walked through alleyways, down winding streets, and past courtyards, asking for directions and looking for the street corner as Father Tommaso had directed them. Francesco let out a sigh of relief as they spotted a small wooden cart standing at the corner of a busy street. A dark-skinned boy in an old, stained sailor shirt was reaching into a barrel of fish. Francesco walked up to him and smiled. Buongiorno. Good day. Is this the Via Roma? Francesco asked. Yes. And are you Pascal? Who wants to know? The boy snapped with a suspicious glint in his eyes. When Francesco mentioned Father Tommaso, the boy looked up from his fish and grinned. Dominic noticed that many of his teeth were stained and rotted. Yes, I'm Pascal, he admitted, and Father Tommaso has been a good friend to me. If you are a friend of his, then I shall treat you in kind. He quickly agreed to show them to Father Tommaso's sister's house. But first he insisted on giving them something to take along for their evening meal. Sorry, friends. Dominic tried not to get his hopes up. But he wanted more than anything. It was a shake, double fries, and a burger to go. His mouth watered at the thought of it. Why is he thinking he shouldn't get his hopes so high? What do you think, Isaac? It's like, it's probably not going to happen, and I don't want to feel sad. Why is it not going to happen? Huh? Why specifically? Think in this moment. Why is he not going to get a shake, a double fries, and a burger to go in this exact moment? Bennett? Yeah, you're okay. Now think, where are they? They are at the Clam Cart, right? Are they going to have burgers at the Clam Cart? No. So, what do you think they would have at the Clam Cart? Fish, seafood? Clams. All right, so Dominic's not getting his hope up. Still grinning his toothy grin, Pascal reached into the barrel before him. Dominic felt his stomach lurch at the sight of the rubbery white creature in his hand. It had a head and a tangle of tentacles attached to it. Pulpo! Octopus! Antonio cried, jumping up and down and clapping his hands. For us? It's your lucky day, Pascal said, shaking the wet, rubbery mass in the air. It's all for you. Signora Giasulo is an excellent cook, he said, wrapping a piece of paper around it. Take it with you and tell her I bit the heart out myself. Bit the heart out? Dominic asked. Sure, that's the fastest way to kill them, Pascal said, clicking his teeth. One quick bite into the heart. Dominic gulped and turned his head in disgust, only to see Violetta peering into the barrel, looking for something to eat. She finally decided to eat the barrel instead and tried to nibble its side. Good choice, Dominic said under his breath as he pulled her toward him. Would you eat the pulpo? Would you eat the octopus? Oh. Would you be able to do what Pascal did and bite the heart out?
No.
I don't think so. Whoa. Oh, don't look so worried, my friend, Pascal said, patting Dominic on the back with his dripping hand. You'll get a mouthful. She's a big one and only out of the net an hour ago. A double shake, double fries, and 8 legs to go, Dominic thought as he smiled at his private joke. Yes, she was an easy catch, Pascal continued. One look in the glass and she kissed herself goodbye. Glass? Dominic asked. The glass, the mirror. It's how we catch them, Pascal explained. We send a mirror down on a line. An octopus becomes so fascinated by its own image that it forgets to swim away. Lucky for you, she was so in love with herself. You will go to sleep with full bellies tonight. Dominic gulped again. Antonio and Francesco grinned, and Violetta nodded her head. It was only Salvatore who did not seem interested at all. He had slumped against a wall and was holding his side. So where did his pain start? His stomach. Now where is it? So what's happening? What's happening to the pain? It's getting worse. What else is happening to it? It's moving, right? It's moving through. So now, using what we know has happened in our book, what inference can we make is causing his illness? What's happening to those cherry pits? They're moving through his intestines, right? They went from his stomach. Now they're going to the side. So it is the cherry pits. It's moving through. We'll have to see what's going to happen. Now, what do you know about cherry pits? They're kind of big-ish. They're kind of small. They're hard. What else are they? What about the outside of a cherry pit? They're hard. They're a little bumpy, aren't they, too? They're not exactly, like, super smooth, okay? So they're moving through your intestinal tract. So keep that in mind. Your friend there does not look so well, Pascal said. When Francesco told him about Salvatore's eating all the cherry pits, the clam seller shook his head and reached into his back pocket. I usually sell these for more than my fish, he said, pulling a little dirty cloth bag out of his pocket. But because you are a friend of Father Tommaso, I will give you a few for free. No charge. What are they? Antonio asked, standing on tiptoes to see. Relics, he whispered, pulling 3 yellowed fingernails out of the bag and handing them to Salvatore. These are the fingernails of Saint Sebastian. They are able to cure a sour stomach, a blow to the head, poor eyesight, and nosebleeds. Just carry these relics in your pocket, and you will be cured. Grazie, Pascal, thank you, Francesco said. Then he asked him if he knew of their ship, the New Amsterdam. Why do people think relics are helpful? Well, because they're specifically from those saints, right? And why? What's so special about saints that we know? They've done miracles. They're really close to God, right? So if he keeps these fingernails, what do they think is going to happen to Salvatore? It's going to work. He's going to feel better. Good. Lizzie?
Isn't New Amsterdam like a show now?
New Amsterdam? It probably is. I think you're right. I wonder if it has any correlation. I've never actually seen it, so I can't comment on that. All right, so we're right after the New Amsterdam. I know all the ships that come into the harbor, Pascal assured him. Umberto, he called to a skinny, dirty-faced boy drinking at a fountain. Come watch my stand for me. The boy came and stood beside the barrel with a hopeful look in his eye. What do you think that hopeful looks for? Food. He's looking at that barrel, hopefully, like, watch your stand? Sure. Watch. And don't let me catch you eating my clams, Pascal shouted. Come, he said, turning back to the boys. We'll go to see your ship. It's just past the old cobbler's shop down at the bay. Come, I know a shortcut. They followed Pascal down an alley when Salvatore suddenly cried out. Salvatore, are you all right? Francesco called, running to his brother. It's my side, Salvatore groaned. It's worse. It's worse. His voice trailed off as he closed his eyes. I can't walk. You can't take him to the ship like this, Pascal whispered. They won't let him board if he's sick. He'll have to get better first. But our tickets are only good for tomorrow. We must leave tomorrow, Francesco cried. Come, we'll carry him the rest of the way, Pascal offered. Maybe the relics will fix his stomach in time. Francesco handed Violetta's rope to Dominic, while he and Pascal took turns carrying Salvatore piggyback down the street. By the time they had reached a heavy wooden doorway, Salvatore's face was covered in sweat, and he was burning with fever. An old woman in a black dress and a lace shawl greeted them at the door. It was Signora Giasulo. She smiled on seeing Pascal, but her round face became creased with worry at the sight of Salvatore's condition. Francesco gave her the letter, as Father Tommaso had instructed, and she quickly read it. Ah, yes, I met your mamma long ago, she said. When I came up to visit my brother, I would see her at the well doing her wash or in church saying the novenas. A good woman, your mamma. Ah! Salvatore cried out in pain. Signora Giasulo ordered Salvatore to be brought to her bed and called to her sisters-in-law across the street to come at once. As the woman swarmed into the cramped dwelling to attend to the patient, there was little room for anyone else. Dominic and the others followed one of the women through the house and out to a small courtyard, where they found a table and chairs under an arbor covered in grapevines. Dominic could hear the low buzzing of bees above their head as he sat in one of the chairs. The woman placed a bowl of blue grapes on the table. Mangi it, eat, she told them. They quickly emptied the bowl. It's all my fault, Francesco moaned as he fed a grape to Violetta. I should have made him spit out those pits. Do you think that the cherry tree is going to be so big that it will burst his stomach? Antonio whispered anxiously. So think through that. Does Antonio believe that this is happening for real?
Yes.
How do we know that he thinks that Salvatore is really growing a cherry tree? How do we know from that? Lily? Yeah, and he said it. How did he say it? He said it like a question, and he said it anxiously too, right? He's like, is it really going to burst his stomach? Remember, how old is Antonio? 7. So does that kind of make sense that he really thinks this might happen?
Yes.
Yeah, he does. Because remember, these boys, do you think they've gone to school? No, they haven't, right? They haven't even seen a doctor. So Antonio is really worried for his brother that the tree is going to burst his stomach. So just keep that in mind that he really thinks that this has happened. Like, the tree's going to happen. No, Antonio. Stomachs are no place for trees, Dominic told him. They can't really grow in there. But maybe all those pits can burst a stomach, Francesco said. Will they let you into America with a burst stomach? Antonio asked. No one answered this last question, for Signora Giasulo was calling from the window. They jumped up and ran inside. This child is very sick, she whispered, shaking her head. I don't know how he can make such a journey. He has to try, Francesco insisted. He told her about the cherry pits and she frowned. Ah, well, we shall see, she finally whispered. Thomas?
At the very start of the book, didn't Francesco say that 2 of his brothers died?
2 of his brothers did die. Did he say when they died? No. So what are you inferring, Thomas?
I don't want to tell you
That Francesco might die before it won't let onto the boat.
So Thomas is using what the old man said. And he thinks maybe Salvatore is going to die because Francesco on the phone said 2 of his brothers did die. Ooh. All right, I'm on page 108 at the very top. We got a few more to go here. The boys stayed with Salvatore, and Violetta lay down beside the bed. What's wrong with her? Dominic asked, noticing how listless she was. She knows Salvatore is ill, Francesco explained. Whenever one of us takes ill, Violetta knows, and she worries. Is that pretty common for an animal?
Yes.
Animals kind of can sense when people that they care about are sick. A lot of you might have a dog or a cat that when you're sick at home comes and cuddles with you. Violetta's doing the same kind of thing. Dominic looked down at Violetta's dark, sad eyes and patted her head. Don't worry, Violetta, he whispered. But after a few hours had passed and Salvatore's condition had not improved, they all began to worry. Come take a meal with us, Signora Giasulo insisted, leading them back out to the table under the arbor. A meal of octopus, Dominic thought grimly, following the others back to the table. A kind-faced man with a thick red mustache introduced himself as Signor Giasulo and sat down at the head of the table with them to eat. Dominic watched as everyone made the sign of the cross and lowered their heads to pray. Signor Giasulo led the prayer, and when he was through, he kicked up a knife and kissed it before slicing into a loaf of warm, homemade bread. The boys all sat silently, eyeing the plates of delicious-smelling food that the two young girls were placing on the table. There was a basket of warm bread and 2 wooden bowls full of greens and roasted peppers. There was not much to go around, but what was there was meant to be shared by all. Dominic kept his eyes out for the octopus as he picked up a wooden spoon by his plate. Francesco passed him a large bowl full of spicy tomato sauce with bits of what Dominic guessed were chicken pieces in it. This smells good, he said, passing Antonio the bowl. Zuppa di polpo always smells good, replied Antonio with a grin. Stewed octopus always smells good. Dominic dipped his spoon into the thick red sauce. He gulped down one mouthful and then another. Soon he had forgotten all about the rubbery mass of tentacles that Pascal had pulled from his bucket. Soon all he could think of was how delicious octopus tasted. Father Tommaso arrived a little before sunset, having come down from the hills on his donkey, Piccolo. He told him that all had gone as hoped, with the Padrone's men off searching to the north. But when they find no trace of you there, they are sure to come south to the harbor to look, Father Tommaso told them. Whatever you do, Francesco, you must get on that ship tomorrow. Later that night, they went in to see Salvatore, but he was too sick to talk. His shirt was wet with sweat, and Signora Giasulo was helping him out of it. As Dominic stood beside the bed, he noticed that Salvatore wore a chain around his neck. Dominic took a step closer to the bed, and in the light of the lamp, he saw something that surprised him. For there, hanging from the end of the chain on his neck, was a familiar little gold key. Whoa! Why are we saying no way? I see so many of your faces are just like, why the shock? What's going through your head? Why the shock? Amelia, what's going through your head? Yeah, so Dominic had a key. Remember when he time traveled, what happened to it? It was just gone. It disappeared. And now we find out Salvatore has a key? What? Maddie? Remember, Dominic said he got it from his dad, and where did his dad get it? From his dad. It passed on. Dominic's key did. Oh, Rosie?
Also, Salvatore's initials are Salvatore Candiano.
Dominic's initials. Remember, his dad's was Sal Candiano. So the initials would be SC, and Salvatore's is SC there too. Oh, Thomas. Bum.
Wasn't this kind of proof that they're related since they have close initials and they have really close last names?
So now we're kind of starting to lean more towards that inference, getting back to it, that maybe they really are related because they have such close last names. Ooh. Think back to when we read our books about immigration. Do you remember what would sometimes happen once they made it through all of the health screenings, all that, what the last step was before they could go into America? No. Do you remember what the very last thing was? Do you remember, Lily?
Wasn't it like you have to have like if you're not over 16, you have to have like a parent
You have to have a parent or you have to have money. But what was the very last thing they would do? If they had a list of something, what would they do? Do you remember, Monica?
Well, they would like ask you questions about like your life so that they knew that you weren't like lying.
They would check what the ship said and that. Good. And then what would they do to make sure you were a U.S. citizen? What do you think they would give you? Some sort of paperwork. What would be important to have on that paper? Your name. But now imagine, you're speaking Russian to me, Claire, and you say your last name. Do I speak Russian? So Claire tells me her last name. What am I going to do? Write it down as best as I can. What might happen if somebody spoke Italian and I don't speak Italian? But they don't speak English. What might happen to a name? Alasia? Amelia? It's going to be a little spelled a little differently. It's going to be a little mixed up. Monica?
And it's gonna sound different.
It's going to sound different, but it might sound similar. Oh, so what connection are you seeing now? Candiano and Cantori, are they really much different? They're really similar. Maddie, you keep raising your hand up and down. You good? All right. Holy moly. Bennett? Who's Dominic's mom? That, I don't know. We want to know that. But Dominic just wants to know some part of his family, right? That's what he wants. He wants to know where he comes from. But, Ryan brings up a really good point. Salvatore's not feeling very hot, right? He's not feeling good. Oh my goodness. There's so many ideas going around. I love it. Let's take a pause, friends. Fourth grade friends, I love your ideas. But let's take a pause and look over our homework, okay? I know, it's such a good ending there. All right. You can hear my voice clap once. You can hear my voice clap twice. All right. So chapter 20 homework. What you need to do is use chapter 20 to complete these questions, okay? First side is using the story, okay? Pretty normal stuff, but answering full sentences. Describe Signora Giasulo. So who is that talking about? The man or the woman? The woman. Good. Signora. Okay, so like Mrs. Okay. 13, 14, 15, 16. Good. And then 17, I do want you to do tonight. It doesn't need to be filled with color, but I want a quality, not just like, yeah, put here Salvatore. That's Salvatore at the end of the book. That's what I'm talking about. I don't want that. Give me your best that you can, fourth grade quality. Quick sketch picture of Salvatore at the end of chapter 20. Okay? Claire?
But like, how would Salvatore be like the dad or something? Because he died when he was younger.
We don't. Salvatore hasn't died. Salvatore's alive. What are you talking about? But they didn't say that. Oh, that's a good question, though, to keep in mind. I don't know. Maybe. All right. Fourth grade friends, I love when books get great discussions going. But I want to check in. Any questions on the homework? Okay. Micah. Hold on. Any questions about the homework? All right. Then that's all we got for reading today. Bye.